thing if you don't want to. The projects generally are pretty long as far as content, so by all means, you don't feel that you have to print the whole thing out. I don't know if you guys are paying per page to print or anything like that. Don't feel the need to print the whole thing because, well, you don't have to. You don't have to. She was just saying that because she doesn't want to haul up on campus. But I'm saying it because I'm a hippie. So by all means, you can do stuff on scrap paper if you want to and turn it in that way. Check all the points. I did want to mention, what do you got, Joe? Oh, excellent. Check all the points. Make sure we didn't short you anything that you shouldn't have been shorted. There was one question, and that's why I said it. A few of you had a grade crossed out and then replaced with a higher grade on the project. The one question, and this is pretty much a perennial question that gives intro stat students a hard time off the bat. The one problem was, explain what a probability of 0.3 means. Explain what a probability of 0.3 means. Right? And this is the one, don't worry, by the end of this course, you're going to have this dialed. And I would imagine by the end of today, you're going to have it dialed too. And I said, if you need help, refer back to the meaning of probability. What's the big part of that meaning of probability box? Carly, what do you think?
Would it be saying like the overtime?
That's what I had to have in there somewhere, was the overtime bit. Many people just said, well, there's a 3 in 10 chance. I'm like, that's just taking 0.3 and making it 3 out of 10. That's like saying, if you survey 10 families, exactly 3 of them are going to show that characteristic. Well, that's not what 30% means. It means over time, if you repeat the trial over and over again, on average, 3 out of 10 families are going to exhibit that. It doesn't mean that every 10, 3 are going to have it. That's like saying, if you take a die and you roll it 6 times, you're going to get a 1, and exactly 1 in there somewhere. Well, that's not true. My son proved that the other day playing Monopoly with me. Right? It means, though, if you roll a die lots and lots and lots and lots of times over time, you're going to see 1/6 ones, 1/6 twos, 1/6 threes. It doesn't guarantee when they're going to happen. It just guarantees that it will happen over time. So somewhere in there, I needed to see some nod to the phrase over time. And that's why I had to cross out and fix. Amber, sometimes, it's hard to grade for this class sometimes because I put on the keys, things to look for, and then you guys come up with new ways to phrase it, which is rad. So if you saw your grade crossed out and replaced, it means you came up with a cool way that somehow got that point across. But Amber didn't think it was the... I think it was in the second question, the very end of the second question. 2E. Thank you, Carly. 2E. Yeah. 2E. So take a look. Make sure if you somehow in there have the phrase overtime implicated or implied, come grab me at break and we'll take a look at it again. But very often what people say is they'll phrase it out. They'll say when you have, I forget the context of that one, 2 parents with eczema and/or allergies, there is a 30% chance that the kids will not have eczema, or I think that was the context. Yeah. Well, that's great, but the problem with saying just that is you've just reiterated what D said. If you read D aloud, it says, what's the probability that your child will not have eczema and/or allergies given that the parents do? And if you just said that again in part E, well, no, it doesn't contradict, it just says it again. It doesn't explain what that means. That's one of the trickiest things. When you have to explain a probability to someone, like if you see somebody drinking a Jolt, you're like, 25% of people that drink Jolts develop high blood pressure. And you have to explain that to someone. And one of the worst ways you could do it is, well, if you're sitting in a room like this, I look at Ariel, she's drinking a Jolt, okay, this is full of Jolt. And I go, take a look to your left, your right, I guess, and 2 to your left. One of the 4 of you is going to have hypertension because of that Jolt. That's the worst way to explain a 1 in 4 chance. Because it's meaningless. You can't say 1 of the 4 of you is going to have develop hypertension because of Jolt. It means on average in the samples that were done, 25% of the samples, it might be that all 4 of you have hypertension. Sorry, I'm not trying to curse anyone. But on average what it means is 1 out of 4. And whether you had on average, whether you had overtime, whether you had over repeated trials, anything like that in the answer, I was looking for. So as long as it had that in there somewhere, boom. It was only a 2-point question, I think, so not the end of the world if you didn't get it. But that's the understanding of long-term probabilities is one of the most important parts of this course. So expect to see it over and over again, just because we're going to keep talking about it. Please, Joe, yeah?
Could it also be based on the sample size?
You don't know what the sample size was. That's the problem. I guarantee it wasn't 10. It was probably done on hundreds and hundreds, but even if it was done on hundreds and hundreds, that can be inferred out to thousands and thousands, not tens or hundreds of thousands. Yeah, But the problem was that there is no sample size to deal with there. And I think I linked the study up above it, but you can go back and find the sample size if you want. And when they report the 30% chance, I'm guessing it was based on whatever, 30% of their sample. But it applies to more than their sample. It applies to an inferential look at the entire population. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yes, I think you're 100% correct. It's just making sure that you can phrase that properly. And we're going to do more and more experiments with this in this class as we go through the next couple of weeks, where you start to begin to see things. One of the best examples, we do this workout called a deck of doom every Tuesday, which is you take a deck of cards and you pick 4 exercises. And you apply 1 exercise to each suit. So hearts will be pull-ups, and spades will be push-ups, and I don't know, popcorn medicine balls will be clubs, and something. And then you deal them out one at a time, and the card tells you, the suit tells you what exercise, and the number tells you how many. And one day, it's been a few months ago now, we had assigned hearts to pull-ups. And we threw almost a perfect royal flush in a row. Now, if you play poker, you know that royal flushes don't happen all that often. But they have to happen, right? They have to happen. Now, if you're playing it with a deck of cards and you're throwing cards, would you expect to see 4 or 5 hearts in a row? It's not expected, but it can happen. And at the end of the day, shuffling a deck of cards is the perfect example of probability. Because when you're done, 25% were hearts, 25% were clubs, 25% were spades, and 25% were whatever. Thank you, diamonds. But the order they come is not guaranteed at all. It's lumpy. I've heard that defined as lumpy. My people that I was working out were pissed. Oh my God, 13 pull-ups. Oh my God, 11 pull-ups. I'm laughing like a hyena. I'm like, this is freaking great. This is probability in action. Because you aren't guaranteed an order. You're guaranteed an amount or a percentage. But the thing is, you have to let it happen long enough. And that's why you have to get that about the time in there. Over time. Don't expect every 6 to have one show up. Because if you will, you'll be disappointed. Because most likely it won't happen that way. More and more on that to come too, or every 4. Spades, clubs, diamonds, hearts, spades, clubs, diamonds, hearts. If you start getting that, you start questioning what the deck is. If you start seeing regular, I think I've told you this before, that's why Harrison Ford was running from the one-armed man in The Fugitive. Because the data was too good. If you've never seen that movie, I just ruined a good big part of it for you, I apologize. But there's the whole premise of the movie The Fugitive, Harrison Ford, who's seen it? Harrison Ford, The Fugitive? Oh my God, only about a third of you. Maybe it's still a third of you. But the whole point of that was there was data. Observed, randomized data, allegedly. But it was too perfect. And Too Perfect got published. But the problem with Too Perfect was it was fake. So that's the whole reason he was running for his life. So it's fake data. Same mistake. Too perfect. You need clumps. You need lumps. We saw that in the first day class with the heads and the tails. You need to have the clumps in there. But the idea is over time, it evens out to the probabilities. And we've got nice models we'll look at in class and also in your projects and your exams and things like that for that kind of evening out. Moving average is one way of looking at it. You'll see that for you next week. Make sense? If you have any specific questions, just bring them up during the break and we'll take a look at them. We'll get them all squared away. For sure. But that was the only one that I think stymied like half of you. And I did go back in and look at each one. I always like to look at that one because the English language can get in the way in this course sometimes where you guys can say something perfectly fine, but if Amber's not registering the same thing you're trying to get across, she might knock it inadvertently. So that's why a few of you have points added back on. I thought I saw a hand. Please, Kelsey, yeah.
How many points was the project have?
25. Yeah, project's 25, quiz, that was your first project, wasn't it? Yeah, I guess it was. Project's 25, quiz is 10, exam's 100. Exam next week, yeah?
Yeah.
And when I say that, it means it's due a week from today. You do it whenever you have time, when you find some time to knock it out. It's got a nice Excel component. It's got a nice total fit component, which is fun. It's got a nice, what else is in there? There's a few other things in there. It's got a little research component. You've got to go online and find some, I'm guessing online, and find some either leading or misleading statistics. Please, Rachel, yeah? Is that Rachel? No, it's Patty.
Yes.
It's Patty. Okay, where's Rachel? Right in front of Patty. There we go, good.
It says refer to the balloon student debt.
Yes, in the homework.
On the homework, which homework is it under?
If you look at the intro to Prob and Stat,
Okay.
there's a big graphic that has a bunch of balloons and it's got a bunch of student debt numbers on it. And then if you need more, I gave you an explanation underneath of why that's a misleading statistic, or why that's a misleading display of statistics.
Thank you.
Fair? Oh, no, you're welcome, you're welcome. Other questions? That's a good one, thank you. I do refer back to the homework occasionally. I know not everybody has to do the homework. Some of you are just happy doing the quizzes and turning those in. Totally fine, no problem with that at all. But I do every once in a while, if you get stuck on something like a take-home exam or a project's not so much, it's mostly the exams and the quizzes. Just refer back, find the homework section that corresponds to that and just go back and take a look at it. Chances are you can find what you need in there. The idea of the homework repository is like, it's just more resources. I'm trying to give you guys as many possible resources as I can, and that's just one more of them. So, cool? Every once in a while, I'm not sure about this. I might do this. I might post a homework question as a quiz. I haven't done it yet, I don't think, in here. Everything's been standalones. But there might be something like if I put 2 quizzes up for a given week, I'll put a third one up and say, yeah, if you want a third quiz, do that homework question and submit it, or something like that. Of course, you can ignore that because they're optional anyway. Speaking of quizzes, I put up 2 for next week. And I guess technically, you can turn the third one in next week too, couldn't you? Because I had 2 due for today, but then because we got canceled on Tuesday, I said if you need more time to work on the one that has variation involved, feel free to turn that in on Tuesday as well. So there was 2. There was one about central tendency about the river depth and the Paul Anthony Samuelson IQ question. That one could still be turned in today. You don't need more time for that one. But the variation one, the gas and diesel prices, if you need more time for that one, feel free to turn that in, especially because we didn't talk about how to deal with pulling standard deviations off of a graph like that yet. We just, it was a plan for Tuesday, which we'll do today. I also put 2 more quizzes up for Tuesday, again, if you want to do them. One is on something called Chebyshev's theorem, which I'll mention today in class, but the quiz takes care of more of an explanation. It doesn't, don't get scared because it says theorem, don't worry about that. And I think there's another variation quiz. I think. I'll have to go look. With a graph on it. That's central tendency. I think there's one. Let me take a look. Hang on. Pull it up here and take a peek. And I also, the reason I put the quizzes due on Tuesday was because your exam was due on Thursday, and I felt bad having like 4 things due in one day. But I also, then I contradicted myself by saying if you need more time to work on the quizzes, you can bring them on Thursday as well. So, I guess that makes me feel better because it doesn't actually post that they're due. Scheduled week 5, right? Here we go. Oh, it's just one variation quiz, sorry. It's just this guy, it's just Chevy. I might slap another one up there. I've got a good one I didn't use yet. Just some TI tricks, there's your exam. Let me ask you guys an opinion. Does it bother you if I post 3 quizzes? Does anybody feel like if I post 3, then it feels like you have to do 3? Because you don't, right?
No,
I mean, it's,
no, but you do.
but you do.
I do.
But you do.
No,
That's what I was asking about.
I want to do all the quizzes.
You want to do all of them. If
So
you
if
don't
I
do
see-
one, does it drive you insane?
Yes.
Oh, yes? Yes. So maybe I should, yeah. What I can do is I can dole them out. I can spread them through. I can pitch like 2 a week and just keep the topics running. Variation is not a simple topic. I mean, not at all a simple topic. It's the kind of topic that you need to kind of keep looking at. So what I'll just do is I'll just keep putting a variation quiz each week, combined with any other topic we're currently doing at that time. That way we're not uploading an entire bunch of ones. That actually makes more sense educationally. And then it says, feel free to turn, it says these. I don't know why it says this quiz on. I think that's because I copied and pasted from this cell. If you want to grab this one and turn it in with your exam, that's fine if you need more time. So, not trying to rush you guys, just trying to get the stuff learned, but not terribly overwrought. Cool? Makes sense? Getting there? Somebody's having a heart attack.
So that quiz
Yes.
can be turned in with the exam. Is that
Go
right?
ahead, yes.
Okay.
So essentially, this variation quiz, if you need time, you turn it in here. This one can be turned in here. Yeah, makes sense. So the variation quizzes have a 2-day delay, a class period delay if you need one. Yes. I'll stop posting things for next week to not confuse anybody. I'll post them in week 6 instead. Good God. Yes? Good? Yeah, fair. Good. Let's talk a little about variation. What do I need in here? Let me look at my, I know I need a PowerPoint or 2. Get back in here. How we doing? We all right? Week 4?
We're dying.
We're dying?
We're
We're dying.
feeling
I don't want death. Okay, so the heights we can't use. Yeah, this is good. We'll go back to that. And we also want this as well. Yep. So we'll come back to this one. So, let us, oh, that's right. Make sure your TIs are out. You're going to want to use these bad boys again. It's one of those things that losing a day is kind of miserable because it's a week then in between, and that's a lot of time to not be chatting about stuff, and a lot of it can be lost. Let me stop and start the camera. We just found some more